Hi, this is Tim Massengale, and welcome to this month's Church Growth Minute. I want to talk today about evangelism in the context of getting out into your city, your neighborhoods with evangelism, and specifically a ministry that has seen some good results in the past. It's called Neighborhood Lighthouse of Prayer Ministry. And it's the idea of going into the neighborhoods of your church members and utilizing evangelism and prayer as a tool to reach the lost. This is an idea that has been used successfully by a number of churches. And so it typically begins by preaching, teaching a good sermon on prayer and evangelism, the need to pray for and reach for the lost. And so at the end of that service, when you have made an appeal for the need to pray for souls and to reach souls within the neighborhood, you ask people to come forward that are serious about praying for their neighborhoods and are willing to labor within their neighborhoods to reach the lost. So the adults that come forward are placed on a list for a home prayer meeting. And so they agree that they will meet at a scheduled home for a group prayer meeting, meaning if you have 10, 15 adults that come forward at the altar call saying, yes, we would be willing to pray for and to evangelize our neighborhoods with prayer, we ask all of those who come forward to participate in these group prayer meetings. And so you're going to have 10 or 15 adults that show up hopefully at each home, or at least a good percentage of them. And so they're going to show up at the homes for a group prayer meeting. Now, in large churches, you may have dozens and dozens come forward, which obviously would preclude all meeting within one home. And so you'll probably be able to break this into several smaller groups. And so usually about 10 families or so, that's normally the space limitations of a single home. But again, the emphasis here is we're going to reach our neighborhoods for the gospel of Christ, and we're going to use prayer as a tool by which we're going to try to do this. And so everyone's going to bind together as a team and say, okay, you support my neighborhood, I in turn is going to support your neighborhood. We're going to meet at the home, we're going to pray, and then we're going to reach out into that neighborhood as a group. So on this selected Saturday, which tends to be the time that oftentimes works best, they all meet at the chosen home for that week for a quick breakfast. And then they have a time of prayer together. And then they hit the streets normally by about 10 in the morning. And so they're going to be knocking on doors all throughout that particular neighborhood. They go out in teams of 2, and they're assigned to particular streets, and so you don't want the teams to be overlapping. So they all have 2, 3 streets that they're going to cover that morning. At each door, they're going to share a very simple message with whoever answers. Oftentimes along the context of we're having a neighborhood prayer meeting this evening to pray for the families and the needs within this area. And we'd like to invite you to join us for a 6 p.m. prayer meeting at this home for a time of group prayer. And you should be able to give them a simple flyer that shows a map of how to reach that home and the prayer meeting time and the name of the homeowner and the phone number, etc. And so you're going to invite each family that will answer the door to come to a prayer meeting at that particular home that evening at about 6 o'clock. And so after you have invited them, and they may not be able to come, they may not express any interest and so on, then you will say something along the lines of, well, we're also collecting prayer requests for our group to pray about. And so do you have any needs that you would like us to pray for? And of course, those requests should be placed upon a prayer request card along with the name and address of the individual. Usually at the end of collecting that information, if they have a prayer request to be prayed for, we'll ask them, do you mind if we contact you in a few weeks to see if we should continue to pray for this need? Because we're going to be meeting regularly and praying for your particular need and calling out before God to meet that need. And so if you don't mind, could I get your phone number so we can call you to see if we should continue to pray? Now, on that evening prayer meeting time, when everybody gathers together for the evening prayer meeting, and hopefully you have a good number of guests that come as a result of your reaching out into the neighborhood, you should start the meeting by introducing all who have gathered and, of course, welcoming those guests. Then the prayer request cards of those that have gathered are handed out. So everybody takes 2 or 3 cards or 4 cards or however many, and they pray. We should pray as only apostolics can pray. And so let me stress how important that we allow the Spirit of God to infuse that home and to infuse our prayer meeting. We should use the liberty of worship. And there is no prayer that is more powerful than apostolics praying. And so when people come into a service where apostolics are praying, they feel something. They know something is real. And there's a touch and a power of God there that they probably have never felt before. And so after the prayer meeting, and you should usually keep this to around 30 minutes or so. I know we can go on for hours and hours, but obviously these guests are not going to be used to such. But after a good 30-minute prayer meeting for these particular needs, fellowship follows. And so there should be food and a time of socializing and just relaxed conversation and so on. And of course, all the visitors are invited to church the following morning, which would be Sunday morning, and make sure that they have information on where to find the church and so on. Also, we should be sure to call back to see, if we should continue to pray for those particular needs that have been gathered. So many have found some great positive results by asking for a home Bible study at that meeting and offering to meet in their home. It's important that the pastor or a seasoned minister be at each prayer meeting. And so I believe that churches can see a very, very powerful result with these type of outreaches into the neighborhoods. If you're interested in firing up your members, getting them out into the community, utilizing prayer as a tool of evangelism has seen some outstanding results. And so it's something I would encourage you to try. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. I'm Brother Tim Massengale, and you can contact me at tmassengale@apostolic.edu. Or you can call 1-800-800-0247. Glad to talk to you about the approach and the churches that have seen good success with it. And if you have good success, please email me and let me know your results. God bless you. Thank you for being a part of this month's Church Growth Minute.